Welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My co-host in this segment is going to be the wonderfully talented Steve Misener, CFA extraordinaire. Steve, thanks for coming back again.
My pleasure, James.
Steve,
always good.
Yeah, you bet. So, what are you thinking about the markets today? Generally, have you been looking at them at all? No, we were talking earlier about the cyclicality of markets, and if you were to observe the sell in May and go away mentality this year, what would have happened?
Well, you could make a case that some of that's been true. I think that the sell in May go away is such an old adage that over time it tended to evolve and perhaps be a little later. Sometimes June has been very positive months. Years ago there was always a theory that there was an attempt to show better numbers for the end of the quarter, which is June 30th, which is the midpoint in the year. So there was maybe a less selling and an upward bias of buying. That's certainly not necessarily applicable anymore. But it really is heading into the August, September, October period when often we see markets have stumbles or periods of fits.
I'm just pulling up the chart here for the cannabis large cap index, and if you would have sold, let's say by the end of May, and went away, you would have missed out on a bit of action in the cannabis market, at least in the large caps.
Yes.
So, but I'm going to throw it out there and ask your opinion about this. The cannabis market is anomalous in so many ways. The valuations, the speed with which it acquired went from less than $10 million in market cap to $45 billion today. A lot of these companies have, insignificant sales, and certainly few of them have much in the way of profit, but the valuations continue to climb.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unique industry in so many ways, and you can't maybe apply all of history's patterns in terms of evolving industries to the cannabis space. A business that has existed for decades in a huge way, but been underground, so to speak, coming to surface, as opposed to a brand new business with no notable revenues. We know that there's lots and lots and lots of revenues in the cannabis space, even aside from the medical space, which is legal in many parts and certainly here. But really what you're doing is you're transplanting the illegal market into the legal market. It's coming to surface. I read recently that I don't know how large the California market is, but we know it's absolutely massive. But even up to the end of last year, 81% of cannabis sold in California. I don't know how they even know such an accurate number, but 80% of the market was still in the illegal market, which is a stunning number, meaning that that's all growth that is yet to come out of the underground market and end up in the public markets onto the income statements of all these companies that are waiting for income to come. So that's a big number to come forward. And if you look at that across all the cannabis sectors, there's probably some similarity.
So do you think that the transplant of that black market revenue and profit is going to happen gradually on the Canadian exchange, or more likely suddenly on U.S. exchanges as the U.S. moves closer towards federal deprohibition of cannabis? And the reason I bring that up at this point is because we had Senator Chuck Schumer today made an announcement about the introduced the Marijuana Freedom and Opportunity Act bill to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. And so, that's some pretty interesting development, and sort of demonstrates the fact that the U.S. is, for better or worse, gradually moving towards federal deprohibition.
There's no doubt. I mean, this is how it happened in Canada. I mean, there was initially a lot of resistance, and eventually opposition gets worn down, and we know that over time that we figured that the U.S. would come in. President Trump said a few months ago that he said, well, if they bring it up, I'll probably support it, which was a big vocal change in policy for him on this. This is obviously coming from the Democrat side where you'd expect it to come from. And if it goes to the House and if it goes to the Senate, it will probably pass, in my opinion, because there'll be some grandstanding, just like there was in the Canadian Senate. Well, we're not really in favor. We're concerned about these issues. In the end, it got jammed through last week. It's not going to be quite the rubber stamp affair in the U.S. It'll be much bigger scrap. Mm-hmm. But and it may not even pass the first time, but the fact that it's being introduced now for the first time means that it will generate momentum over time, and definitely I think will go ahead at some point.
Sure. The legislation as introduced would decriminalize cannabis at the federal level, but would still give federal law enforcement authority to prevent marijuana trafficking across state lines, which I find is interesting because one of the great things about the U.S. market in terms of opportunity is that the markets, as represented by individual states' differentiators, prevents, markets where it's cheaper or where they're more advanced in producing marijuana further along from taking advantage of other states' opportunity as they progress towards legality. So that's kind of one of the things that I view as a real value catalyst for cannabis stocks generally, especially those listed in Canada operating in the U.S.
And it does, absolutely, and it does allow you to do your economic model on a state-by-state basis. It's also good for the individual states at the early stage because they want to collect taxes and they want to not be exposed to cheaper product that might come from out of province without taxes. So it's a tax issue for the states, the individual states, and this constraint at the federal level on a state-by-state basis would go right along there. I would also say politically that having Schumer bring it out right now, it would be a bit of an attempt to energize their younger base for the Democratic Party to the midterm elections, because this can be an issue that they've been waiting for. Mm-hmm. The same way it did in Canada.
Yeah, right. Interesting. In some of the other news that I wanted to touch on today, we saw that Aphria had raised $250 million in a straight share deal at 11.25, I believe it was, per share. They sold 21.8 million shares at 11.85 per share for proceeds of $258,750,000. I think that's incredible. Everybody seems to be able to access $250 million who's in that in the Midas Letter senior index. So I'm just curious as to where is the limit to how much money can go into this thing in terms of where we're at in the evolutionary cycle.
Well, it's hard to know where the limit is. Only the underwriters would know whether this is money has gone retail or if it's gone more institutional now. We always knew that since the whole cannabis space started from the bottom up and it wasn't led by institutions, that institutional buying both in Canada and overseas to Canada would be possibly a later cycle situation, and the deals sizes are getting much bigger. And that would generally indicate that it's an institutional following now. And if they're just getting into it belatedly, but they still see lots of upside, then that's a positive for the sector for sure. Mm-hmm. When it shuts off is hard to know, but the taps can, when they do turn off, they can do it suddenly for a while, as we've seen in the past.
You bet. One of the main themes that we've been discussing lately on the show with various participants is the idea that the growth in the cannabis space and public market valuations has been on a relentless tear, largely because it's in still a accumulation phase. And recently with Bill C-45 achieving royal assent, now you've basically got a G7 nation who has categorically blessed the entire cannabis complex as legal, which means that all of those, the largest and the most conservative capital pools in the world, pension funds, large sovereign wealth funds, who have stayed on the sidelines because they're always the last ones in when it comes to a new sector, especially,
yes,
and especially one that's unproven and that still has some challenges potentially around legality.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we've been thinking of, so at what point does the market generally turn tail and take a dive? When does the bloom come off the rose, so to speak? When does the bubble pop? And there's a few different arguments out there, and I'm just curious as to which one you find most supportable. But the one that I gravitate towards is the idea that when all of these companies start to compete in the recreational market and are thus then compelled to compete on price, that the ability to compete on price will be determined by things like economies of scale and market share. But because there are so many competitors, there will be new entrants into the market who target price competition as the way to create market share at the expense of the incumbents who have built and established the market and therefore have the larger share. I think that when all of that competition comes to bear, that the price of cannabis is going to start to be driven lower and lower and lower until the larger companies can no longer compete because their cost of compliance and operation is so much higher than newer, smaller ones.
You know, I'd have to disagree on a few points.
Excellent.
The beauty of this discussion. Sure, smaller companies can, in cases, be more flexible, but it doesn't always mean that their cost lines are lower. The economy of scale can apply in a big way here. Let's look at other, let's forget the medical side, we're talking about the recreational side. And therefore, if it's recreational, it's a sin product like alcohol or beer or cigarettes. When those businesses mature, as they have over the last 100 years, consolidation. So there's only a couple of large brewers left at the top level, and yes, we've got the explosion of the craft brewing business. But in the beer, the economy scale's pretty obvious that Molson's and Molson Coors and Budweiser, Labatt's have the economy scale. Same in the liquor business. So what it tends to mean then is, to me, is that the large companies will have economies of scale that they can exploit. They'll be able to buy everything cheaper, and so I don't know. Yes, there'll be innovative small guys. The other thing about the price point is, let's look at Ontario, which will be the biggest rec market. Because the LCBO is going to be the sole provider, that doesn't necessarily mean prices will come down and be competitive for, against producers, because we pay $40 a case for beer. Mm-hmm. Doug Ford says it might be cheaper soon, starting tomorrow, but we pay $40 a case for the cheapest beer out there. And cross-border, you can buy beer for $15 a case or $20 a case.
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Absolutely. So, but the point is that prices aren't pressuring down on beer here because there's a monopoly distributor. And if we have monopoly distribution for 13 million people in Ontario, and we have quasi-monopoly distribution in other provinces because they want to control the tax revenue, then that doesn't automatically lead to lower prices.
That's interesting. Okay, so then what do you think is going to be the catalyst that sort of starts to undermine the growth trajectory of the cannabis segment?
I think we're going to be, because they've set the date now in stone for October 17th, this is where a stock market sector, a new sector, has to evolve from being concept and the dream of the investor of what the potential is, and they have to start then providing quarterly income statements based on some reasonable projection. And that's when things can stumble, because then we get to reality. As long as it's out there, or then there are no hard numbers except to say we're going to grow this much next year, we expect to make this much next year, Well, at some point, companies have to deliver, and the ones that do deliver will be they'll be good, they'll be well followed and supported, and they'll probably ascribe a premium in the market. But not all of them. There's so many of them,
right?
And that's just normal in any sector. That the guys that stumble will, because they don't make their projections, or their projections have simply been too lofty to begin with and unrealistic. Those are the ones where the troubles will hit.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so then one of the sectors that we're following increasingly here is nothing to do with cannabis. So we're gonna take a little detour now, and I had a conversation a little bit earlier with a gentleman named Justin Holland, who is the CEO of a company called Eguana Technologies. And Eguana Technologies makes power controllers for battery storage systems associated with solar and wind power. And so we're going to cut to that interview right now.
Okay.
Hey there, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. My guest in this segment is Justin Holland. He's the CEO of Eguana Technologies, Inc., trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol EGT. Justin, it has been a while. Welcome back.
Great to be here, James. Happy to be with you.
Yeah, so we started covering Eguana Technologies back in 2014.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, and so we've had a ringside seat over the rather impressive arc of your development. Why don't we start with an update of what's happened in the last 12 months that's really taken you to a new level?
Quite a bit, actually, James. Back when you started covering us, we were more going for the power controls inside energy storage systems. And as we went through the sector in the different regions, we saw there was little core competency for people to do that full integration. It's technologically difficult, and a core competency that we had in-house. So across that time frame, we've actually migrated the strategy to produce fully integrated and factory assembled storage appliances. So you get the EMS, the power controls, the full integration to the battery, all in one box, coming out of the factory, which is a little bit different in the industry that was primarily driven by an inverter with a battery and an EMS. And if you think about an installer perspective, you can either install one box or you can install several boxes. So we paid a lot of attention over the years as to how we could simplify the approach, maintaining the core values of the company, and have a better product at the end of the day, which is, I think, where we are now.
Sure. One of your key relationships is with LG Chem. And you've made some incredible inroads with them where they've actually really embraced your technology and have started to ship original equipment manufacturer products with your stuff pre-installed?
Great relationship. Obviously, as a small Canadian tech company, it was a critical one for us. We saw that battery supply was going to be, a deciding factor in the home storage sector, and we could see that with the electrical vehicle movement that you really want to have a robust supply chain for that. We went through long-standing tests with LG. Several of the development team have been to Korea. We worked directly with the team there. And we were actually the first to integrate their module into a fully integrated system. So great relationship. They're very supportive of us. They actually look at our product as kind of the large modular LG product. They have their own standing product, which is an LG Resu. It's a DC coupled product that goes to 10 kilowatt hours. Our product, which we've done in a modular fashion, goes from 13 kilowatts all the way up to 39. So a lot of support from LG. We know them well, and we look forward to continuing that relationship.
You bet. The sales and demand sort of picture over the last 3 years has improved dramatically, as well as adoption of storage systems for solar at home levels is really starting to improve globally, isn't it?
We're seeing a significant tipping point right now, and as I explained it to some of the people that I've been talking with, up until this point, you've seen the manufacturers push the product into the market, and depending on which market you were in, it was either a self-consumption type market like Europe, where you've got a high power price, or a grid services type market in the US, where it was bound by regulatory constraints and change. But what we're seeing now is a market pull, creating somewhat of a vacuum out there for certified energy storage products. We think we've hit that timing very well. We've just launched the small commercial industrial product in March. We launched the fully assembled product for Australia and North America in March, and just recently at the Intersolar show in Germany, we launched the European specific product. So all three products are now in the market. They're certified and rolling out through distribution at a time where we see the change from the market from a manufacturing push to a market pull. So very good timing.
Great. And during our last conversation, we talked about how you are competing essentially in many respects with Tesla, and that in many respects you have a superior product which is recognized within the industry. So what are the elements of your product relative to Tesla's Powerwall, for example, that make the Eguana system superior?
I would say the first thing right now, and something that we focus on the supply chain aspect, and it sounds simple enough, but it's availability. And there's a worldwide shortage on the Powerwall, and the rest of the competitors are focusing on availability. Outside of that, Tesla came out of the gate with a very low price point on the product. Most of the other manufacturers did not follow suit on that price point. Where we were able to compete directly on that is large system sizes. Large system sizes are what you typically see in Australia and the North American market. And where we get a cost advantage over a Powerwall is in the power electronics topology. We've got a modular system where you can put one power control system installed, and then you can add battery modules to it. So if you wanted to go from, say, a 13 kilowatt hour system to a 26 kilowatt hour system on an Evolve product, which is our fully integrated product, you just add the battery modules. In Tesla's case, you would have to add a full second Powerwall. So as system size go up, the fact that you only have to add battery capacity on an Eguana system gives you a cost advantage over the Powerwall. And then you look at installation flexibility. Powerwall has certain challenges in different regions due to its size, where our modular approach also lets you have a lot more flexibility there. So a lot of markets, they will have the same function, but we've got a lot more flexibility. We can take a cost advantage, and then just the general product availability against the Powerwall.
So scalability and availability.
That's very well put. Absolutely right. Absolutely.
I like to rhyme things so I can remember them.
I'll take that one from you.
Okay, so what's the what is your sales and picture look like for the next 12 months going out, and what's the sort of gross margin on that?
It's looking very good, and we just announced a press release last week where our long-standing partner, Mercedes-Benz Energy, we've come out now publicly that they were in fact our German automotive partner. They've done extensive testing on our product, and we've got the endorsement from them. It was a long road to get there, but we were able to execute and finish that. What they've also done for us is their sales team worked with us to do the introduction and the conversion of their distribution pipeline. So outside of North America, we are running through distribution, and in the last several weeks we've added distributors in Europe, Turkey, Middle East, Australia, and it's due to that relationship and having that endorsement with Mercedes-Benz. And from the company perspective, we identified a couple of years ago who we thought would be the leadership groups at this point in the market. And we had identified Powerwall, as we mentioned, but we also identified LG Chem and Mercedes-Benz Energy as the top tier. And our objective at that time was to work with one or multiple players that we considered top tier. Today, I'm happy to say that we do have the backing of LG, and now we have the formal endorsement of Mercedes-Benz. So we identified two of the three, and actually have done very well with two of them. So the distribution rollout is going well. The revenues will scale drastically in the fourth quarter. And the margins that we're looking at are, for our industry, very healthy, and they're right now sitting in the mid 20% range. So margins look good, the rollout looks good, and we certainly have the two big partners backing the product.
Sure. Just a sort of tangential question. It strikes me as potentially opportunistic for LG Chem to acquire you outright? And if you're already embedding their modules in your systems, at what point does it make more sense for Eguana Tech to be an LG Chem subsidiary?
We've kicked that around. Obviously, the battery guys are more focused on the batteries, and I think it's important to understand that the electric vehicle market does take a lot more of the batteries. We had approached LG at one point to look at integrating a full system with them. They're not really structured to manage that type of a global business.
Okay.
So I don't see them as a potential acquirer. I think what you'll see with the battery players is they're going to continue to advance the battery technology and focus mainly on the batteries and primarily on the EV space, which is why it's critical to have your supply chain locked down on the residential stationary piece so that you always have access to the batteries. But I don't see them as a candidate for Eguana.
What about Eguana acquiring LG Chem?
Yeah, we're agreed.
That makes more sense.
We'll talk that one through with the shareholders and see what we get.
Right. Okay, so finally, what does the outlook for 2018 look like? Where are the catalysts in terms of value for the shareholders?
We were rebounding and rebuilding in 2016, 2017. I think our shareholders, which, good group of shareholders that have been with us a long time, understood that. We've already increased our revenue in 2018 from $700,000 to about $2.6 million. We expect that to double within the rest of the fiscal year. And then we should continue to see that growth as the products roll out in the fourth calendar quarter and into 2019.
Wow.
It's the help from our two partners has been tremendous. And now we have products selling and rolling out right across our target jurisdictions, which were Australia, Europe, and of course North America.
Wow, great, Justin. Let's leave it there for now. We'll come back to you in a quarter's time and catch up with you and see how you're doing. Thanks very much for your time today.
Thanks, James. I look forward to it. Take care.
Hey, we're back here live with Steve Misener, CFA extraordinaire, and we have been discussing cannabis markets today and some of the movements, some of the fundamental developments. And one of the things that we have not discussed yet, Steve, that we said we would discuss, is the idea of the seasonality of markets. So when you say seasonality of markets, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, there's long-term trends in the North American stock markets, even in the longest time periods, going back to the 20s, 1920s, 30s, 40s, etc. And it really was partly linked to the economic cycle of the northeast part of the U.S. and Canada. And it's based on the seasonality of the auto business and the seasonality of the construction real estate business. Now, much of that has changed now over the years, but initially they used to close all the big auto plants in the summer, and they would retool and they would start to issue the new model cars come the fall.
Okay.
And that meant that GDP in the summer in the US was low, and there would be a dip. Now they do seasonally adjusted numbers, but everyone would panic every fall because earnings forecasts would be softer, and there would be a feeling that there was a slowdown in the economy, and that would lead to lower stocks. Also in the winter, by the fall, the construction season, because of winter and snow, would slow down, so that meant that supply chain purchases were also backing up. People were ordering less in the summer and the fall because they were not needing construction supplies. So those are the long-term history of seasonality. Now, so obviously some of that has changed. Construction continues all year round, and it's not just the big three automakers anymore. But if we want to tie it into, again, what's still happening now, since most stocks are purchased based on forecasts, and most investors can only look about 1 year to 18 months into the future. We can talk about being a 5-year investor in a company, but what really matters is the next 12 months or the next 18 months. We want to buy something now because we expect investors will like that we forecast or what we anticipate will be happening, and then people will buy the shares later and drive up the price. That's the whole methodology behind investing stocks, or at least one simple platform. So against that, since most analyst reports and most forecasts are fine-tuned in the fall of the year or the beginning of this year or the beginning of any year, and most economic forecasts, most earnings forecasts are a little on the optimistic side. That's how,
to say the least,
people buy stocks, because we're being optimistic, because we think that the better outcome is likely to happen. Well, if those forecasts are made in January and people are buying shares based on the current year, 2018, and the forecasts were all maybe made in the first quarter, then by the third quarter, by September and October, when the third quarter is being reported, but even in August, the realities of those forecasts start to kick in and say, well, you know what, maybe the company's not going to make the revenue line or the profit line that we thought it was going to be making based on the forecast. So what happens is you have a whole market that needs to recalibrate the earnings forecasts and the revenue forecasts that were made in January for the whole year 2018, and that recalibration starts to kick in heavily in July, August, September, October, somewhere in there when the realities kick in, because more often than not, forecasts are too high. And when you recalibrate it, it leads to disappointment, and that leads to lower stock prices. Sometimes companies will be reporting better than expected earnings. And of course, in the US, reports for large companies are fairly quick. We'll be in the reporting season for, say, the S&P 500 stocks beginning in the third week of July, and it'll run right through August, and that'll be for Q2. The U.S. economy, broadly based, is going gangbusters, so the numbers will probably be pretty good, which should support the market. But by September, October, I think that in some of those cases, on wider sectors of the market, some of that recalibration to lower expectations has to hit the stocks.
Yeah, you bet.
And that's the seasonality in a nutshell.
One of our regular watchers, Hector Lopez, made a comment just now that he says, we've got to bring you back because you're sharp. So they're really appreciating your input there, Stevie. Okay, so one of the things that I'm curious about, and seasonality of markets aside, there's another issue that I'm just going to spring this on you because I'm pretty sure you've got something to say about it, and that's the idea of the TFSAs, tax-free savings accounts, and what you can buy in them and what you can't. Now, is there a clear definition out there what can go into them and what you can't even try to put into them?
I may have an opinion on it, but I certainly don't know the clarity of that question. So, I mean, we'd have to maybe defer and say you got to speak to your, financial advisor on that. That's the first point I'd make. Okay. But I don't know how finally they draw the lines.
So you don't have a TFSA?
I do.
Okay. So how do you determine what you buy in your TFSA versus regular accounts?
I guess I just haven't pushed the envelope hard enough for them to say no.
I see. So that's when you'll find out, is when they say, hey, you can't do that. Interesting. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on, and I know you have an opinion on this, and we're probably going to differ on it, and that's okay, because we've managed to stay friends all these years with wildly different sort of viewpoints on a lot of things. But we were talking earlier about the developing trade war as a result of the sort of the conditions or terms of free trade agreements that President Trump south of the border seeks to modify and has subsequently catalyzed, from one perspective, retaliatory measures by all of these countries in Europe and China and Canada, who have now they're all in retaliation mode, driving up the cost of auto parts in the U.S., driving up the cost of, everything from wine from France to, goods in China, and certainly Canada is now in retaliation mode with the usual suspects: lumber, agricultural products, etc. So my question for you on a macroeconomic level, is this going to be something that might theoretically spark a worldwide recession?
No, it won't be worldwide. But Canada is definitely in the crosshairs. Our trade with the U.S., I don't know the exact numbers, but it's approximately $350 billion each way. I mean, there are surpluses, and it used to be heavily based on oil, but it's not so much anymore as the Americans are becoming net oil exporters. But $350 billion to Canada of exports and $350 billion of exports from the U.S. to Canada is about a flat number or balanced number. The key issue is that it's 2% of U.S. GDP, and Canada, it's 20% of our GDP. So any kind of trade dispute, even if we want to pound our chests with bravado, is very dangerous to us, because half of that number is 1% of U.S. GDP, and U.S. GDP is probably growing at 3.5% next year, and they're already getting concessions from China and South Korea, and Japan is pending, I think. So they could replace the export sales to Canada, that $175 billion, or if you half the number, with more promised purchases from China and South Korea. Whereas we can't replace that with anyone. So we could lose 10% of our economy in a trade war with the U.S. and the Americans, they've already replaced it with commitments from China and South Korea. So going head to head in any kind of trade war, no matter if it may feel good from a Canadian perspective to some, I don't agree with that, is a dangerous thing.
Okay, so are you suggesting that Canada should basically just bend over and take it up the arse from Trump, and because we have no choice? Or are we better off suffering some short-term gain and replacing, or being prepared at least to replace the lost contribution to GDP by developing stronger relationships in other markets?
We can't replace the lost sales, because a lot of it will come from the auto sector. And we produce, I don't know the numbers exactly, so don't hold me to them, but it's a big, rough numbers. We produce maybe 30% of the North American auto market, and we consume 6 or 7% of it. I mean, maybe those numbers aren't exactly right, but we produce way more cars to sell to the U.S. than we buy out of that North American market. So we're already exposed if there's any trade fight there at all.
Okay, interesting. We're going to cut to another interview, another conversation I had with Nathan Woodward, who's the CEO of JWC, James E. Wagner Cultivation Corporation, trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol JWCA. Check it out.
JWC was founded over 10 years ago. Previous to that, I was actually on disability. I had severe chronic intractable migraines. So I turned to cannabis. And within a couple of years, it turned my life around. My family joined me under the MMAR. Many of them suffered from conditions which I knew could be helped. We turned to my grandfather, James Wagner. All his life he grew a variety of things, and he grew cannabis too, and he showed me my first cannabis plant back in the day. So we're a family business, a family of patients and growers who have founded a company to bring our unique medicine to the larger group of patients here in Canada.
You grow here aeroponically as opposed to hydroponically or conventionally. What's the difference between aeroponics, hydroponics, and growing in dirt?
We eliminate any potential intermediary and provide our nutrition in the form of liquid nutrients directly to the root mass of the plant using a special type of mister spray that allows the plant to optimally absorb the nutrients that we provide. There's no chemistry involved in soil composition or in substrate monitoring. So we can optimize directly to the conditions that the plant requires. Because of the high efficiency of our system, we use less nutrients. We use, no pesticides. All of these other elements of cost, which also create work and therefore increase the number of employees required to service the plants, are simply not present when you consider aeroponics and the JWC approach. This is our vegetative room. We've got a large group of Rockstar Kush plants. This is a terrific producer. It comes out at about 24.5% THC usually. As we come down here, we have a group of ChemDog plants. Now these plants are just getting ready to move under the screen training into their next phase. ChemDog, a beautiful plant, comes out only at about 17 or 18% THC, but it has a wonderful earthy flavor. This is one of my own personal favorite strains. We run a perpetual harvest cycle. So one of our flowering rooms every week will produce a harvest. We have 5 flowering rooms just like this one. Each of those flowering rooms can produce approximately 4 kilograms of product every week, which gives us an estimated production capacity of around 1,500 kilograms every year from this pilot location.
This is one of our sea vaults that we use to store the product. It's completely airtight and they're stainless steel, which makes for easy sanitization. And inside we have some of our Rockstar Kush. Okay, there's actually about 1 kilogram of product in here, which translates into roughly $10,000 worth of value. So this product looks a little bit different. This is our Cannatonic. It's extremely low in THC and it's between 11 and 12% CBD. The goal of this is to preserve the trichomes on the outside of the bud. All the cannabinoids are contained within those trichomes, and so that's why we take great care to preserve them. Looks really good, by the way.
This is the old Lear seeding manufacturing plant. We are taking it over now. Construction is well underway. I anticipate we'll have somewhere between 125 and 140 flowering rooms at this location. But on average, we're going to harvest approximately 4 kilograms of cannabis every week from every one of those flowering rooms, 52 weeks out of the year. Now that works out to about 28,500 kilograms of cannabis out of this location once we're at full production on a yearly basis. By the time all is said and done, we'll spend between $35 and $40 million building one of the most advanced cultivation facilities in the world.
Hey, panic time. Welcome back. I have Alison Gordon with me right now. She is the CEO of 48North Cannabis Corp, trades on the TSX Venture under symbol NRTH. Alison, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Alison, let's start with, I'm not gonna point out, like everybody called me and said, oh, you gotta have Alison. She's one of the only women CEOs in cannabis. And I'm like, well, great, but like, I just want to know why she's the CEO. Like, I don't care that you're, I mean, it's interesting and
right.
We can talk about that in a bit,
okay.
But that's not the main focus to me. It's
that's
like,
great.
okay, let's
I
just
hear
know.
you. It's like, I'm here, I'm a person.
Exactly.
Right.
And you're in the cannabis space
yes.
and you're growing cannabis, so you're obviously somebody I want to talk to about that. So tell me about 48 North, what is the differentiator in terms of competing with
Okay.
all these big behemoths, and how did you get into the space and all that?
Okay, well, I'll start with how I got in because it
Okay.
kind of leads us there. But I am a cannabis user recreationally, and about over 12 years ago, I had a close family member who was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. She was older, she'd never used cannabis at all, and she was recommended by her doctor to try medical cannabis through the MMAR program. And as a cannabis user, I was like, hold on a minute, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Right.
I had no idea that we had a medical program. At that time, I had co-founded an organization called Rethink Breast Cancer,
Okay.
and that's what I was doing with my career. And in that organization, we were really thinking differently about breast cancer and very marketing and branding focused, focusing on young people. And I naively thought back then, I think it was like 2008, like, you know what? Someone needs to rebrand the cannabis market and open stores that will, you know, sell beautiful cannabis. And I started to look at the industry, realized that it wasn't that simple, and but also really see how the cannabis was helping her in many ways as she was going towards the end of life. So anxiety, sleep, pain, and I felt like, okay, this needs to get out there. So I really started examining the space back then. And then in 2013, I decided, okay, you know what, let's start making a move and maybe to really do something. The government obviously had announced that they were launching the new program. So I started to talk to people and get a lot of different opportunities because I guess I had this perfect storm of marketing and branding and entrepreneurship. I had, you know, with my partner, had grown this breast cancer organization to be a national organization that was recognized globally as sort of changing the face of breast cancer. And then I had been working with patients, physicians, and government relations for all those years. So I wound up taking a position as a chief marketing officer for actually WeedMD.
Okay.
That's in early 2014. And at that time, WeedMD was delayed in licensing, as everybody was, around the injunction. And, you know, the government had said, we're going to delay your inspection. We'll be back really soon. I thought, okay, a week, a month, you know.
Right.
I think it was about a year and a half. But during that time, we actually went and started to look and say, okay, well, we can't really wait for Health Canada right now, so let's take some of these opportunities we're seeing in the US. So we wound up purchasing one of 4 legally permitted dispensaries in Los Angeles, in West Hollywood, which is now the MedMen store. So we sold it to MedMen, their big flagship store on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Wow.
So during that time in 2014 and 15, you know, there was maybe 8 or 9 licenses in Canada at that time. And we, you know, we all knew each other, Terry Booth and Neil Klausner and Bruce Linton, and everybody was sort of running around. But those guys were very much focused in Canada on building out their cultivation, a medical system, dealing with regulation. And I was running back and forth to Los Angeles, working in this mature market and seeing it in a very different way, because it almost went back to my original thought of like, someone needs to rebrand. I mean, in California, you were seeing the evolution of the products and brands really come to market. When we first purchased the dispensary, I think the sales of extracted products were in around the 30% range, and they really quickly went to, you know, 40 and 50%. And also, when we first purchased the dispensary, all of the products were made by the bud tenders that worked there. So you had, you know, homemade lemon squares wrapped in cellophane. I was like, perfect. The branding hasn't come in yet. And then suddenly you were seeing Kivas and Venice Beach Cookie Company, and, you know, all the products were coming in, and I was like, okay, this is, you know, happening. This is what it's about. This is a consumer packaged goods industry, which I know many people are saying now, but in 2014, my colleagues in Canada were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, it is. I mean, it's a consumer packaged goods industry. So the long and short of it is, you know, my journey took me from there to doing a lot of work in the US and Canada, doing deals, because we were seeing these amazing companies in California just at their infancy. But, you know, if you met the management, you're like, okay, these guys or girls know what they're doing, and their stuff is starting to sell really well. So it was a huge opportunity to expand my network way beyond Canada. And so I was doing that for a while, and then ultimately working with Guy Laliberté's family office. They were looking at stuff in the space.
Guy Laliberté
was the founder of the Cirque du Soleil.
Right, okay.
And he was looking at different deals in the space, and they ultimately decided to make a large investment in what is now 48 North and asked me to come and help out, and I did, and ultimately
wow.
was asked to come be the CEO.
There you go.
It's a
and
very
here
long
we
story.
are.
And
That's
here
not
we
that
are.
long.
But you know, it's important for talking about what 48 North is about, because that same vision that I've had is still very much, now I'm in a position to execute on that vision, which is saying, okay, we want to be focused on products and brands, and really looking at it as a health and wellness company versus really saying, okay, we're a cannabis company, so we exist inside this box, we're cultivating, we're extracting, and this is what we do. We have a different view. We say we're a health and wellness company that is focused on the female market, and it just kind of expands the type of deals that you can do, where you want to play, the distribution, the retail, the acquisitions. It's not sort of cookie cuttering down that line.
Right. Okay, interesting. So that kind of does bring me back to the women in cannabis sort of
Yeah, you
question.
can't get away from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then marketing to a female audience is an entirely different approach than marketing to a general audience or a masculine audience. What is it about the market for women that you have to do differently?
That's a difficult question, because women are many things. So
women are from, what is it? Women are from Venus and men are from Mars, or something like that, right?
But women are, you know, there's no, amongst the demographic women, there's many demographics, and I might have more in common, you know, as a consumer with you than I would as another woman. So it's hard to generalize in that way. But when we set out to explore this strategy, we started to do a lot of market research to say, people are going to ask these questions, and investors are going to want to know, is this even a market? So it was really interesting to see that women do make up 48% of the current cannabis market. And they're actually more likely to see cannabis as a health and wellness plant, as something that they can enhance their lives in that way. So that was very interesting. And then when we looked at, you know, we obviously broke that down: heavy users, medium users, light users, non-users, intended users. And amongst intended users, so people who say they haven't used but they will once it's legal.
How big
many
was that
people,
market?
I'll get you those numbers afterwards.
That's
but
really, you know, like when I think about the number of people who are waiting for it to be legal before they try it, I always thought, well, I've got to think that's a really small number, because no, really, because I've always thought, you know, the idea, the rebelliousness inherent in trying marijuana despite its illegality is part and parcel of the kind of person it typically attracts, and is really representative of the membership of the culture of cannabis.
Which is like, makes it a really fabulous group to market to. Just joking. They're, you know, not into joining and anti-authority. It's like the best consumer you could want. No, but truly, I mean, what I was going to say is women are actually made up a larger percentage than men of people who intend to use when it's legal. But to answer what you're saying, I think it's interesting, because cannabis users often stick together or know other cannabis users, so it would seem to you like it's all around, and what couldn't, you know, if you wanted to try, you just could. But if it's really not in your world and it's not something you've tried, it probably isn't necessarily something you feel comfortable going into the black market or doing those things. So I think that's where people say, when it's legal and they can go into a store, there's a trusted source, they're getting it from licensed producers who are regulated, that makes them feel more comfortable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. On a recreational side, but even on a medical side, I mean, to me, it's, you know, I've talked to a lot of doctors about cannabis, and increasingly more of them are sort of ejecting the old attitude of this is not a medicine because we don't know enough about it, and I've focused more on the doctors who are early adopters who are now advocates for cannabis as medicine, and in many cases are leading researchers in the space for different things. And the consensus seems to be, without exception, that there is so much potential in this plant for just good health,
I
thanks
agree.
to the endocannabinoid system.
Yeah, the endocannabinoid system for sure. And all the knowledge around that we're gaining around the terpenes, around the entourage effect. I mean, we've got a big focus on THC and CBD, and for us, those CBD products are definitely very, very interesting. I mean, it's the fastest growing products in the US. It's huge. The skincare and the cosmetic and all of that around the CBD is amazing. But I'm excited as we start to see the other cannabinoids that we'll discover and understand how it all works together. I mean, with Epidiolex being approved by the FDA in the US,
Right.
for epilepsy or
Right.
some forms of epilepsy, it's really that legitimacy is coming, which is awesome.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a guest who was producing cannabinoid products for health, animal health. Which,
Yeah, for sure.
Which, I have 2 dogs, and so my first dumb question, which I specialize in apparently, was, so why would I want to get my dogs high? And he just
Right.
said, it's not about getting your dogs high, it's about the homeostatic effect of cannabinoids through the endocannabinoid system
Yeah.
that exists in all living organisms, apparently, which I was, I'm
Yeah.
always so easily surprised and positively so. So what is it about the endocannabinoid system from a woman's perspective
Right.
that makes it applicable to products that women would gravitate to?
Right. So the endocannabinoid system, again, and I'm not a doctor wherever the camera is, and this is not my area of expertise, as I understand, and it's part of the human body, so it's not a male or female thing. Obviously, there is research that shows that breast milk and the way that all that goes together closely matches the cannabinoids and the endocannabinoid system. And I'm sure I'm butchering this. So I'm going to say that's not what I meant. It's
Right.
not that it's particularly about women, the way that the medicine would work with women. What I'm saying is that there are particular issues or health challenges that women face that could be helped by cannabis and the cannabinoids. So, for example, we know that CBD is anti-inflammatory, it helps with pain, and is used for things like arthritis, etc. So when you think about something like menstrual cramps, we're very interested in saying, okay, what can we create? What type of supplement? What type of cream that you could potentially rub on your belly that could help with menstrual cramps? So it's not necessarily, as you're saying, like how the cells react to the cannabinoids. It's really much more about taking what we know and applications that it's already being used for and saying, let's use and come up with ways to address products that women would really be interested in. And not just medical. Like if you think on the recreational side, if it's the case that women might need to be more discreet because they have, their children around, it might be a smaller vape pen, it might be something that doesn't smell. I mean, it might be something that's dosed differently. So it's not necessarily, of course, we want to look at the science, but as intricately as you're saying, it's more thinking about what are the ways that women want to use and consume cannabis. And for us, we want to be that trusted voice for women because research has also shown that women feel less comfortable coming out and acknowledging that they use cannabis. And so can we create that safe space, educate women, let them feel comfortable to say, okay, I know people are talking about this, but what really is CBD and how would I use it and how might it replace something that I'm already using? So for us, it's building out those platforms to be able to have that relationship with women in Canada to ultimately be able to help them know which products they're going to want and where they can get them.
Okay, and that's very interesting because it's now almost any second, 4:20. Look at that clock up there.
Okay.
At 4:20 in each of our shows,
Right.
we talk about, we actually usually show, but we don't have anything to show today,
Right.
but we talk about an exciting new product in the cannabis space that most of our viewers probably might not yet know about.
So much pressure. Do you have one that you know that we can discuss?
Well, I have a ton of them, in fact,
Okay.
but I wanted to ask you, you're the guest, so what cannabis product that, thanks to the
Right.
deprohibition, legalization of cannabis, medical, recreational,
Right.
what product excites you most in the
Okay.
whole cannabis universe?
Oh my God, this is like the most difficult question. Okay, I'm going to talk about one category and one product. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So I've kind of alluded to this already, and I'm really excited about the skincare and cosmetics, which I'm not going to say more.
Okay.
There's so much going on around that with regards to not just for arthritis and the things we were saying, but also using some formulations, and this is something that we're working towards a lot as well, on anti-aging and, you know, under eye bags and cosmetic. And so I think that's going to be really game changing. I mean, Vogue magazine, Vanity Fair, have many others, New York Times have said CBD will be the next big skincare ingredient. So I'm excited about that. That's not as technologically, you know, innovative as what you're speaking to, but actually someone was just in the office, I won't say who, and they had this really cool vaporizer that has an app on your phone, and you sort of, when you set it up, you, I guess, you know, suck on it so it can measure how strong you pull, and then you can actually set the dial for dosing on your phone, and you suck, and then it will just stop automatically at that place. And I know.
I'm exactly as high as I want to be right now,
Right.
not one iota too high.
Well, it's like, the thing is, across the board in all of our research, both men and women, old and young, all sorts, everybody, the one thing that runs consistently across the board is everyone says they want to be able to control how they're going to feel. And that makes sense. I mean, nobody's like, hey, I don't want, you know, I want to be out of control. So that's what's exciting about the technology, is you can start to figure out what it is, you know. And for us, we're growing some very unique genetics as well, because we have a partnership with a company in the Netherlands, so an exclusive partnership, and we were able to bring in seeds from the Netherlands through Health Canada, like through our import license, and we've been phenotyping those, and we're about to be in full production at our facility in those on those genetics. And to me, that's also part of the excitement, is bringing in genetics, being able to phenotype and figure out what, you know, the Canadian market wants, and be able to expand that offering.
Okay. We're just about out of time, so I'm going to ask you, you've got 40,000 square foot building capable of producing 2,500 kilograms of cannabis per year. That's phase one, I'm assuming?
Yes.
And you have 200,000 square feet of production space planned, and you're going to produce 40,000 kilograms of, I mean, I read this.
Well, everything in our industry changes constantly. So really, the cultivation, I'm sure many people have talked about this on your show. It's like, it looks like there'll be an oversupply, and right now there's an undersupply. I mean, what are the beauties? You started to ask this question before. How do you compete against these big guys? And it's definitely challenging, but one of the things that is great is that we can look and see, as regulations come out, and actually make decisions based on regulatory, you know, fact, not let's speculate here. And then we've now built a $20 million indoor grow, and now there's outdoor grow. So the interesting thing is, our facility is on 800 acres, and much of it's irrigated. So yesterday, when they were talking about the outdoor grow, we were like, this is awesome. For us, because what we're really trying to do is build those future products and brands, as I said. So the input for extraction doesn't need to be indoor grow. That would be crazy. And you can see in Colorado now, we just had people at our office yesterday, and the prices are just completely dropping, and people are very concerned about the indoor grow there, because the dispensaries actually aren't differentiating by price for indoor and outdoor, which is quite problematic. So when you're dealing with creating extracted products, you really are looking to greenhouse or outdoor. I mean, Canada outdoor, you're not going to get that many seasons, but the greenhouse and outdoor are obviously a lot cheaper, and when you're extracting, you're really just taking out the cannabinoids. So for us, that's a big part of it, is what is the best, cheapest way to create a quality product and be quite innovative in that space. So that's how we compete.
Wow, that's fantastic. All right, Alison, we're going to have to leave it there for now, but we're going to have you back.
Have me back
very soon.
I want to read the news.
You are. We're going to invite you back to read the news.
Well, I'm going to learn the news.
There we go. Up next, I've got Ed Milewski joining me. Special Ed, our favorite. Ed wanted us to point out the fact in this segment that the second half of the word weed is Ed. Stay with us, please. Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest has been here many times before. Some of you might recognize Duma Winshu. He's the founder and CEO of Province Brands. Duma, welcome back.
Thanks.
Ed is here, special Ed. We just noticed that Ed is the last part of the name of the word weed. Weed.
W, small w, small e, capital D.
Special weed.
Weed. Okay,
anyways,
here we are.
Thank you. We're back today. We have some very special things to talk about on our show, not least of which is a serious money-making opportunity by Ed Milewski that actually panned out yesterday. We're gonna play that in a bit for you. But today we have.
What do we have?
Look at where's the paperwork here? What the hell? All right. So today at 4 o'clock we're going to have Alison Gordon here from 48North Cannabis Corp. Trades on the TSX venture under the symbol NRTH, and she is one of the very, very few. In fact, I think she might be the only woman CEO in the cannabis space.
Really?
I think that's amazing. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so that's going to be interesting to talk to her. Senator Chuck Schumer is going to be here to discuss his initiative to introduce the marijuana freedom.
Senator Chuck Schumer's going to be here? Chuck, is that you walking around?
Long there, Ed?
What?
Why? What took you so long?
I'm just sitting there going.
Chuck Schumer will not be here. He declined our invitation to fly up in his personal private jet this afternoon.
Chuck, is he a politician?
He's a politician, yeah.
He's got his private jet?
He's a U.S. senator, but he introduced the Marijuana Freedom and Opportunity Act to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. Remember yesterday, Ed, we were talking about this.
Yes.
And people were saying, do you think it's going to happen that fast? And as I said at the time, that we have senators introducing legislation as we speak that could easily be rammed through and become law in a very short period of time in the U.S. You've got a president that is cuckoo. Well, he's just like,
anti-weed.
What? This will get me a few more viewers. I'll say it. Should I say it? Did I say it?
You know what somebody told me today?
What's that?
That Trump has made an invitation to one of our former Canadian politicians to come to the White House to discuss tariff and trade.
Our former prime minister?
That's exactly right. He asked.
Which prime minister?
He asked Stephen Harper.
Stephen Harper, that Nazi? Are you kidding me? Unbelievable.
You should see Stephen when he's playing in his band. He's got quite a.
No, I have this much love for Stephen Harper.
Okay, but
Stephen Harper tried to double down on the marijuana laws in 2009. It's part of the reason he got his sorry butt turfed out.
I know. I'm just saying that Stephen Harper's being invited to the White House.
Well, you know that they make a good couple.
There you go.
Trump and Harper.
Well,
perfect.
How do you think Trudeau feels?
I think Trudeau is probably just smiling from ear to ear at that prospect.
Sure, and as Canada goes down into the...
No, Canada's not going there, Ed.
Okay.
Canada.
Okay.
Canada.
Okay.
The Canadian character.
They just need to raise taxes some more, and we'll be fine.
Well, I mean, I fully expect, the way to keep people from immigrating here, raise the taxes some more.
Yeah. Because nobody pays taxes except the people that work.
Pardon? What do you mean nobody?
Okay. All right. Enough said about that, obviously.
Yeah, no, on taxation, I think it's a privilege to be a Canadian, not a right. And I think the privilege has to be paid for by taxes.
Right.
And so I'm happy to be a tax-paying Canadian. And I think if you want to go live in Panama and be a tax evader, that's fine.
Right.
I salute you. Smart. Great. But I'm going to stick around and I'm going to put shoulder to wheel to make this great country of ours even greater. Am I losing it or what?
I need a drink.
Okay. So anyways, Ed, yesterday you made a very prescient call. And loath though I am to admit it, I doubted you I doubted you.
Well, you didn't really say you doubted me.
Well, I kind of conveyed through facial expression and through various guttural noises from throat, stomach, and
Barbarigmus, maybe.
Barbarigmus.
Some intestinal rumbling.
There we go.
Just by suppressing
I
your...
suggested that you might not be accurate. And lo and behold, here it is. 24 hours
Okay,
later.
well, let's
and you were right.
Can we replay it?
You're right. You want to play it?
Well, let's play it.
Let's play it.
Let's play it, play it again,
Play
Sam.
it again, Sam.
Here we go. Viewers, follow me here. Which can happen. This is getting oversold here.
Okay.
In fact, we may be a buy here now, short term.
Yeah.
But so I'm betting you we're going to get a sharp bounce back here shortly, and that will be a time for the viewers to lighten the load.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, if they open down, buy them. Tomorrow morning, viewers, if they open down, buy them.
Really? If they're down in the morning, buy it. What if they're up?
Sell them.
That strikes me as pretty,
Well, buy low, sell high.
Buy low, sell high.
Where?
All right, so there you have it.
So what happened?
I laughed.
What happened? What happened? You scoffed.
I scoffed.
You scoffed.
I guffawed.
You guffawed.
I guffawed. Well,
You
let's
guffawed.
take a look at the chart now. We're going to pull up the...
let's see what happened here today.
We're going to go pull up the Midas
Let's see.
Letter
Let's see.
chart machine.
Let's see where weed opened today.
And we're going to put in weed, and we're going to look at that chart. We're going to pull up, I think we're going to pull up the 5-day here. Let's pull up the 5-day because that way we'll be able to see. Oh, now wait a sec. Okay, so here's what you said. You said if it closes down, buy it.
If it opens down.
If it opens down,
like in the morning, if you saw it down, buy it. So what happened here?
Well, in the morning it opened up and it started to drift down, and you said buy it. So oh, this is the pre-market right here. Let's see.
Okay, so here we are. Here we are.
So it opens.
It opened. Okay, so it opened. It
opens
at
down in the
36.28.
Yeah. Yeah. Opens down in the pre-market.
Yeah.
So you buy it. If you would have bought it, and if you would have showed up just after 10 or just before 10, you would have bought it too because it's still down here. And then from that point, it rises to the point where it is now, which is up $2.71 or up 7%. I would have made 7%. Had I put 100 grand down, I would have made 7 grand today. Just if I listened to you and stopped guffawing and stopped being
It's never really clear.
Well, that was pretty clear. That was pretty clear, Ed. And I think that's, that's a testimony to the value that we try to bring to our...
Of good technical analysis.
Of good
by a seasoned veteran.
Oh, my goodness. Now I'm going to have to eat humble pie for the rest of the month.
Humble pie.
Humble pie. Well, so Ed...
Okay.
Which brings me to today's question.
Okay.
What should we buy today?
Oh, yeah. Well...
All right, so first let's look at
if I knew, I wouldn't be sitting here.
I wouldn't? Well, why not?
Well, I probably would. I probably would.
You got better fish, bigger fish to fry somewhere else? Is that what you're saying?
Look at this. Look at this. Up 5% today.
And largely driven by
weed.
both canopy. Like, look at this. So all the majors are up today, and if we order them in order of price increase, so there you go. Weed is up the strongest at 7% right now.
Yeah.
Med Relief is up 5.37%. Just a matter of time till they disappear into the Aurora mix. Emerald Health is up almost 5%. Kronos is up almost 5%. Aurora is up just over 4%. Afria is up just 3.6%. So,
I'm looking at this list here, and I think I made this comment before, but it seems as though that list, for instance, the percentage gains are the one at the top's the most, and each one is a little less going down.
Well, that's because I clicked on percentage change. Okay, you're messing with me here, aren't you, Ed? You're fucking with me here. Anyways.
I'm what?
Fucking with me. That's my almost curse, but not quite because it's kind of Irish. Fuck. No, never mind. Onward. Full screen.
I'm gonna tell something here to the viewers here.
All right. Should we go full screen on this so you can do your your technical?
So here's what I would say here.
Okay.
This is a little trick I've learned over the years. So we got this line here that's been breached. It's sort of like let's say you extend that line, and you can see there's a pretty good line there.
Yeah.
Right.
Crooked line.
You can't see it because it's invisible, but use your imagination, viewers. Now, my guess is we're probably going to rally. Now, if you could draw the line like that,
Yeah.
that's the line that was the support line. Now, the support line was broken. So now, we've gone so far below, and just when everybody thinks this is the time to sell, sorry, viewers, you're wrong. You're always wrong.
Great. We're always going to be wrong unless we listen to Ed Milewski.
No. The point is, it's always going to do what you least expect it to do. Markets always make a fool out of it.
Well, they made a fool out of me many times.
Anyway,
I think
I got my own problems.
Yes.
And they're very serious. Anyway, so I think this bounce here, this is a beginning of a nice bounce.
Yeah.
We're probably going to go, if we could draw a line here,
Yeah.
we're probably going to hit that line. And that'll be the support now, because it used to be resistance.
So you're saying the peaks are the support points because they were formerly resistance points.
Now, yeah, so here we had resistance. I always get this mixed up. I gotta stop and think. Anybody got any Geritol or anything like that?
Geritol.
Anyway,
I got a hit of acid for you.
Woo! Okay, so that line, draw that line, and you can do this at home. Get out a ruler.
It's not something that you should not try at home?
No, this is something you can try at home.
But should you try it at home?
You should try it at home. Draw that line.
So print this out, draw the line with
That's
the
the
ruler.
line that now is probably resistance. In other words, as this thing goes up, I'm not going to suggest that's a resumption of that upward trend, but it's going to, I think we've had a new downward trend, but we're going to have a nice up move here in the next few days or whatever. So, oh, well, there you go. Okay.
That's odd. Oh, it's because my computer went to sleep.
Okay, so.
There we go.
You know what?
What are you looking for?
I'd like a ruler.
A ruler. How about a pointer?
You know, like Putin's a ruler.
Point with that. There you go. Something pointy, besides my head.
So that.
Oh,
so I'm going to say, this index is going to probably get to close to 7,000. Okay.
You mean again?
Again, because
there's
a line you can draw, and that line extends. You know, what's the word I want to look for here? An imaginary line. And that's going to be the new overhead resistance.
Okay.
So I think we're going to get a good rally here for the next while.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Ed said that we're going to get a rally. So you think you're basically your overall is you're saying that this is a resumption of the upward trend, because if it's a rally,
not that trend.
Oh,
a counter trend rally.
Counter trend rally.
Like there used to be a main rally, which we saw end here. We saw that rally end here, and if it would have stopped here, then I would say yes, but it didn't. It broke through. So now we're starting a new trend.
Okay.
And this isn't going to be apparent until sometime down the road. So this is the magician part.
You mean it's way out on the right side of the chart where nobody can see it?
We're looking into the future, ladies and gentlemen.
Out there.
Ooh. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't say. Okay. So enough said about that.
Yeah. Okay. So Afria announced a bought deal today.
Raising more money.
They closed a bought deal. They issued 21 million shares.
At what price?
At $11.85 a share.
Couple hundred million.
258 million. 258 million.
They seem to be issuing paper with impunity.
Yeah, but that's not super dilutive. If you're only issuing 21 million shares for $12 a share, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but they're raising $250 million.
Well, but everybody's doing it, so why not them?
Yeah, but the more they do it, usually when companies issue paper with impunity, that's because they think their shares are overvalued.
Well, here's the problem with the big capital pools in the world right now, Ed. The ones that got into the marijuana business a year ago.
Mike,
this is Mike. Hello, Mike. Hi, how are you doing there? They're sitting on a windfall, a positive windfall. You look at companies like MMCap was one of the first in the game with Canaccord in there. They've made a ton of money, and now they're going to put that money somewhere, and they're looking around and going, where should I put all this money? And they're saying, sorry, the weed space is crazy, but there's still no better place to put it. So they're putting money into marijuana again. And I think that's because there's a long way for this thing to go before it craps out potentially. When I say a long way, I mean in the context of the 3 years that first started this thing, 4 years ago, sorry.
I'm going to say, I believe that the peaks are behind us.
The peaks are behind us?
Where?
Well, Mike.
Yeah. Front and center now.
Front and center. The mic is the center.
Well, we're gonna find out as time goes on, right?
So you think that Aphria raising $250 million is a negative flag for the
you know if
what's Aphria going to do with the $250 million? That's what I want to know. They can't build more greenhouses. There's no point in acquiring more greenhouses. There's one thing that is
what do you think they're going to do? Buy something?
Well, I don't know what they're going to do. I think they're going to focus on. I think, given Vic Neufeld's background in vitamins, consumer packaged goods, basically, I think they're going to focus on now deploying that expertise. They've got all the capacity for all the raw material, and they're going to start to focus on consumer-facing packaged goods. And I think they're going to start to really roll out some big stuff. And I think they're going to actually look at being present in all of the world's large cannabis markets. You saw them go into Colombia in a big way.
Right.
They're in Greece. I know that.
Shall we talk about the World Cup?
The World Cup. Well, actually, as we speak, England and Belgium are playing.
Are they playing right now?
They're playing right now, Ed.
Who's your team?
My team is England. Come on, my last name is West, don't you think? I'm not going to root for the Belgians.
Is it James West?
Care for the Belgians.
What's your name? West.
I like Belgian waffles,
James
though.
West.
Do you like Belgian waffles? See, this almost had me rooting for Belgium. I do like Belgian waffles.
Come on.
Belgian waffles with real maple syrup.
It's like dessert.
I make some of the best.
You're telling me you like to have dessert for breakfast? Belgian waffles is dessert.
No, not in Belgium.
Come on.
In Belgium, they eat waffles breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They
What do
make
you call a
sandwiches
person?
out of
What do you call a person from Belgium?
a waffle. I don't know.
What do you call a person from Zurich? You know how, like for instance, a Torontonian.
zeolite?
Torontonian.
Torontonian.
A person from
Zurichian?
Belgium. No,
What?
Zuricher.
You know what you call a person
Zuricher.
from Belgium?
Belgian.
Belgian?
Belgian.
Flemish. Flemish, Ed. I had you flummoxed with Flemish, didn't I? Woohoo! You got him, got him. Oh yeah.
I think a person from Flemland is Flemish.
Flemland doesn't exist, Ed. Go on. All right, let's get back to some serious stuff here. This is just going like, you gotta be a little serious here, Ed. Take this stuff seriously.
Okay, so
all right, we're going
into a long weekend.
We're going into a long weekend. What did you do last night, Ed? Speaking of serious.
I left some money at poker table.
You played poker, didn't you? You played poker, you drank, you smoked, you carried on till the cows came home.
No, but what did I smoke?
How much? Well, what do you think? Something that's legal?
No.
Does it begin with W and end with Ed? I think it might. Whoa! You look a little stretched this morning.
I'm a little, you know what?
How much money did you lose? How much did you lose, Ed?
Let's say I lost.
How much of our money did you lose?
A little less than half of my stake.
Okay, so how much?
I'm not going to say.
Why not?
Well, I'm embarrassed.
It's 6 figures?
No.
Come on.
3 figures.
3 figures?
3 figures.
3 fingers. That's
no. When I order a drink, I
money.
say, "How much gin you want?" I say 3 fingers.
I went and saw Bella Fleck and the Flesh Tones last night at the Danforth Music Hall. Have you ever seen Bella Fleck play? He's a banjo player.
Is he good?
He is the best banjo player I've ever seen in my life. I'm pretty sure
one of the best in the world.
I think that banjo players generally would point to him and say he's one of the best.
Where's he from?
Where is Bella from? He is
probably if he's from the same place where Bella Lugosi's from.
I don't know. Maybe maybe our researcher can look at that. Hungary? No, he's not from Hungary.
How do you know?
Because he looked full.
Okay, so if you're hungry in the kitchen,
yeah.
What are you in the bathroom?
Well, Ed, we try to stay above the level of toilet humor here.
Trust me on this one.
Okay.
If you're hungry in the kitchen, what are you in the bathroom?
If you're hungry in the kitchen, empty.
European.
Oh, that kind of didn't make sense.
That's good. That's good. I mean, European, not European.
European. All right, so let's go back to some chart action.
Okay,
here. You seem to be doing well with that.
Okay, well we had luck. We got a nice little.
Okay, so the main index, the big index, is up 5%, which looks like about the average that every stock on the big index is up. There's a couple on the big index who should not be here.
Supreme is only up a penny.
Supreme is actually not part of the large index any longer.
Okay, so it's just let's put up the top 10. Are there any ones? Okay, you know what? Can I just say something? When you have a rally like today, a pretty good rally, and if there's some weak ones in the space, those are the ones maybe the viewers may want to stay away from. If your stock isn't involved in the
general euphoria, the exuberance, the effusiveness. Okay, so if
I need a drink, I really need a drink.
You need a drink. Why?
No,
why is he just came out here making helicopter signals? We've been on the air for like 5 minutes. What the hell's going on, Fraser? It's 2:49. What? And we got somebody coming in?
Misener at 3. The show starts.
Meisner's at 3, but he's not here.
But we're live at 3.
But he's not here. So if it comes to 3 o'clock and Steve's not still here, we'll just keep on plowing through.
Then, okay.
Yeah. And then we're just going to loop this back into the end. We'll quit.
Let's find.
We'll put this on the tail end of.
It's so confusing. It's like Back to the Future.
I know, but this is the thing about the right now and it's all about segmented content. People don't watch shows anymore. They watch segments because they're looking like, am I interested in what you're saying right now? No?
Right.
Boom, on to the next thing.
Okay.
If I come back to you and I'm interested in what you're saying, I'm going to watch what you're saying, I'm going to listen to you only until I'm no longer interested in what you have to say or I don't agree with what you have to say, and that's it, I'm gone. That's the mind now. We're all going to be like spark plugs. Like we're not going to be able to, I mean, you're not going to have more than 6-word conversations in the future. That's my point. What do you think about that?
Maybe we'll just text.
Text? Well, this is the thing. Tweet, text, tweet and text. Like who writes more than like
2 T's, TT.
TT. Tweeting, I used to say, was for twats or twerps or tweetloves. But you know, now I tweet.
Whoa,
do you tweet?
Whoa! I see a big circle here with the X in it. X-rated.
There's nothing wrong with that word, Ed.
What?
Okay? There's nothing wrong with that word.
Which one?
Twat. You twat. What does it mean?
Don't ask me.
Is it related to the word Twitter?
You know, I'm learning new words every day, and this is one of them.
Okay. You know what?
Do you know what a...
we're gonna move past that now.
Here's a word.
We're
Here's
gonna look
a
at another
rare
index.
English word for you.
A rare English word?
Yeah, whittol. W-I-T-T-O-L. That's a rare English, centuries-old word.
In what, pray tell, does that mean?
I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to let the viewers look it up and learn something.
Oh,
it has
that's
something
fantastic.
It has something to do with being a cuckold.
A cuckold. A cuckold or a cuckold?
A cuckold.
Okay, I don't even know what a cuckold is, but actually a cuckold, if your spouse is out there messing around with somebody else, you're the cuckold.
Yes. Now, you know what a whittle is?
I'm waiting.
A whittle
you said that you were going to tell me.
Is a cuckold that knows he's a cuckold.
You jest. Surely you jest.
No,
Edward.
I don't. No, I don't.
That's an old English.
That's a very,
fascinating.
It certainly isn't a Russian word. I can tell you that.
No, whittle.
W-I-T-T-O-L. Nobody knows that except you and I.
Well, and
the
whoever
viewers
might be watching.
And it's interesting because you can be a cuckold, and if you're an unknowing cuckold, no big deal. You don't know any better.
You don't know what's going on.
But if you know that you're a cuckold, then you're a whittle.
Okay.
Anyway,
what do you think is worse, to be a cuckold or a whittle?
Depends on how strong your mind is.
Okay.
If you can deal with things and you don't care, doesn't matter.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's what I would say.
Okay.
Things only bother you if you let them bother you.
That's true. So in other words, if your partner's out there messing around on
and
you,
you don't care,
and you don't care,
yeah, what the hell?
May as well go mess around too, right? Get while the getting's good.
Join them.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's funny. You know, there are a lot of polyamorous relationships now. Polyamorous? Yeah, you know that word?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Polyamorous.
oh,
Are you
oh.
polyamorous, Ed?
Am I grinning?
That's a very sly look you just gave me there. Like,
No,
when
no.
I asked
You know
the
what?
word
That's the new thing now, right?
polyamorism.
Because so much choice has been made available, and everybody keeps looking.
well, and plus,
They don't look inside; they
our
look
attention
outside.
spans are being whittled away by
Whittled away.
whittled away by.
Whittled away. Did you just make that up? You did that on purpose.
Hey Ed, you know that all words in the past tense, if they were verbs, end with
Ed.
Ed. That's why you're special ed, isn't it? It's nothing to do with your mental
You know what?
condition.
You know what? Stop. Stop.
Boy, I wish that we could keep it together.
I wish we could get into a polyamorous relationship.
No, not us. No offense,
No.
Edward, but you're not quite my style.
Hey, you know what? I got my own problems.
Yeah.
Mine are very serious.
Yeah. Suzanne has some intelligence for us from back there. What? Yes, Suzanne. Have you got something for us, Suzanne? Suzanne. She's a ghost. We're just having a seance.
Susanna,
Won't you cry for me? Because I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. Did you see?
Stop it.
The investment
Stop the
banker just
insanity.
went by, and he had the most horrified look on his face. I suspect he's doubting
pressure?
our singing skills.
Under pressure?
Under pressure. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Under pressure. Okay.
You know what?
So
I'm
we
thinking-
have Steve Misener on today. You know what? This is going to really freak out the
You know what?
audience because
Steve is,
Misener is going to be on before us, and the audience is going to see Steve Misener before us because we're on at the end.
You know what? I think it's time for me to don my shades.
Well, that's just not fair.
So isn't it interesting? You know what? There's two words, don and doff, right? Don and doff.
Don and Doff?
Take off the D on both words, and you get on and off.
Fascinating, Ed.
Don?
You're just a regular linguist, aren't you? You should actually. Were you ever a teacher in school? You could have been.
I could have been a teacher.
And I tell you, there's no better place to have inappropriate relationships than at schools.
No better. Is that a sort of a double negative? No. There's no better place to have
Inappropriate relationships.
than a school.
And I'm not talking a pre-secondary school. I'm talking,
Like high school.
well, actually, I'm thinking more college and university.
Okay,
Ed.
okay.
That's inappropriate enough. We're not going easy.
Stop.
Soft there, young William. Woo. Boy, okay, enough with the inappropriate relationships. This is a religious program now. Do you believe in God, Ed?
I don't believe in. I believe in star power. I believe in star power.
Star power.
Yeah, like not
Like-
Hollywood. Not
Like
Hollywood.
your star power?
No,
because you got star
Oh, yeah,
power.
Yeah. Well, thank
No,
you very much.
seriously.
So I believe that the sun, and which is one star of say, I don't know. I think it's
Trillions.
trillions and trillions.
How would we know? How does
Well,
anybody know?
they've done some amazing.
When they show that
calculations.
science stuff, do you believe that?
Yeah.
You do,
Yeah, I
right?
do. But yeah, because it's.
See, I find when they say, we've just discovered this new exoplanet,
Yeah.
550 million light years
Yeah,
from here, and
yeah.
it's got this in its atmosphere
Yeah,
and got
yeah,
this
yeah,
on the
yeah,
surface.
yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, how do you know? How do you know? Am I supposed
Well,
to buy into
because
the
they
scientific
know,
mumbo
like
jumbo?
for instance, they know things like about gravity and light. It's all connected, right? It's all
Yeah.
gravity and light, right?
Do you hear about this guy who claims that we're controlled by lizard people who look like us, and they actually have lizards living inside them, and their headquarters is in the moon? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it's my uncle.
Is that the kind of science you believe in?
No, I don't believe in that. I believe.
What's his name, Suzanne? We got to find out this guy's name. Look up
Don't
lizard
say
people.
it's Larry. Don't say it's Larry the lizard.
It's
Okay,
Lizard
so
or Larry or something. No, it's David Deek, isn't it? Isn't he the nut job who thinks that there's
Grandmaster?
lizard people?
No,
This
that's-
guy makes a fortune selling books to people who actually buy this crap.
Really?
They believe it. I met a
I think
woman
we're in
on
the
an
wrong
island.
game. We're in the wrong game.
David Icke. Ick. I think it's Ick, isn't it? Ick! No, David Icke. That's the guy. And what does he believe, Suzanne?
The conspiracy that lizard people
A conspiracy that lizard people are running the world. So my question for you is, Ed, are you one of these lizard people running the world? You sure it's running and not ruining? Is Donald Trump, he might be a lizard person ruining the world. Boy,
well, I like alligator shoes. I got to tell you that.
You like alligator shoes? That's weird.
Really?
Yeah, well, do you like alligators? I guess not. That's your alligator imitation? Is that what happens when the bill comes? Oh, I can't reach it. Can't pay that bill.
Can I make a suggestion here?
Absolutely.
Let's put up a chart or something here.
Okay, what do you want to see?
No, this is not going to be related to marijuana.
What?
You want only marijuana?
No. You got something that's going to make us money. We want to hear about it.
Okay, so this is the most levered company, apparently in Canada.
Okay.
In the petroleum business.
Okay, and who is that?
I think it's Baytex.
Baytex.
BTE.
BTE. Let's see if
put that up. I want to look at that chart.
Let's see if the Midas Letter Cannabis Stock Machine will put up oil stock. BTX, did you say?
BTE.
BTE.
How many? Yeah,
Baytex
that's it.
Energy.
How many barrels of oil are consumed daily in the world? Do you have any idea?
I think conventional wisdom currently would say 92 million barrels of oil per day.
Yeah, it's in the 90s.
Yeah,
some
crazy number.
That's wild. So look at this chart.
Yeah.
Wow, that's hard to believe.
So this is where oil started to recover from its $60 lows, isn't it? And what is the price of oil today? That's the question. Let's take a quick look at that, Ed. Let's look at that.
I'm gonna look at it. Here it is, 73.27.
73.27.
73.28.
Okay.
Do you want me to give you a 73.27 now? It keeps changing.
Well, it's because the market's open, I guess. All right, let's look at the commodities generally here on Bloomberg. Energy, there we go. 73.22 a barrel. That's pretty interesting. Brent crude is at 77.67 a barrel. Have you noticed that the gap between Brent and WTI has diminished significantly?
It has diminished, yeah.
It used to be like 15%, 20% difference sometimes, wasn't it? Or was it more than that?
Now it's 5%.
Anyways, there's gold sucking hind tit again, as usual. 1247.
What's it sucking?
Hind tit. Teat. T-E-A-T. It's not a swear word, Ed. I'm good with it.
You know, the runt usually gets the hind teat.
The runt gets the hind teat.
Yeah. Or
that's why they say.
None at all.
That's
maybe
why
none at all.
the expression is that the loser is sucking hind teat. You can say tit.
Yeah, okay, so
Ed, you know what time it is? It's 3 o'clock. We're going to go live now.
Okay.
Just kidding. Where's Meisner? All right. Let's
give him a call.
Let's wrap that up.
Let's wrap it up.